Whatever the final word was comical enough to draw laughter, clearly seen on video from his own arresting officer, Officer Wells. Some things to keep in mind. Sergeant Curtis worked a 6 or 8 hour detail. He testified to both, so we don't know which is true, which got extended 3.5 hours because of the arrest of Andrew and Dominic. An overtime detail that was funded by grant money through Project 21 Long Beach Aware, which Sergeant Curtis is the liaison to for Long Beach Police Department. Sergeant Curtis responded to a newish complaint as a sergeant, which is not normal procedure, while off-duty, which is most certainly not normal procedure, yet still arrives, aggravated the situation and directly enforced the wrongful and unlawful arrest of Dominic and Andrew for financial gain. Dom begins to videotape with his cell phone. Timestamp evidence shows Andrew is placed in handcuffs at 2:30 a.m. Dominic starts another recording attempting to document and could be heard calmly and respectfully requesting the names and badge numbers of all officers on the scene. The badge of Sergeant Curtis, not visible. As Dominic approaches, you can hear Officer Wells, after just placing Andrew in the back of the RMP, say to Sergeant Curtis, "We're not gonna win this."
Definitely.
Sergeant Curtis.
Back up.
You're interfering.
Back up or you're going to. Okay? Back up or you're going to.
Going where?
Going to jail.
Going to jail, says Officer Wells, threatening Dominic after saying, "We're not gonna win this."
Yeah?
So stop.
Yes. Okay, great.
You can film, but
Then attempts to rip Dominic's phone from his
They
hands.
know his respect. They know it's good. His respect. They know it's good.
You guys fucked up by following direct orders by your sergeant. By your sergeant.
Arrest him. Back him up. Arrest him. Back him up.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Oh, you can have issues because you lose your job. Keep getting it. Oh, you can have issues because you lose your job. Yeah. I just want to make sure this all goes down lawfully.
not listening. Stay on the
How
sidewalk.
many feet?
Stay on the
Oh,
sidewalk.
sidewalk, okay. I just want to make sure this all goes down lawfully because what I saw before,
I told you 100 times. Stop filming yourself not listening.
you guys gotta follow protocol. That's not how things go down. He's one of you guys.
Bring a dog.
He's going for it. You already.
Stay over here, please. Give me your brother's phone number now, Dom.
Okay, you sorry?
What is wrong?
Okay, I just want to.
Disorderly conduct.
Yes. Okay, and who do we have here? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. And
201.
yep. And your name? Weeman. Weeman?
Yes.
How do you spell that?
201. I'm not spelling.
How do you spell that? No, not gonna spell it. And who else do we have here? Sergeant.
Sergeant Curtis.
Back up.
Back up. You're interfering.
Back up or you're going to. Okay? Back up or you're going to.
Going where?
Yo, they
to
don't
jail.
want nothing to do with
Yeah,
jail.
so stop.
They
Okay,
know
great.
his
You can film.
respect.
You can film, but
They
you
know
can't
it's
interfere.
good.
You can't interfere.
Yeah, I know.
You're interfering.
Your name. And your name. And your name.
You're interfering.
At this time, Officer Wells notices a third-party filming and leaves the immediate area.
Curtis, I told
Okay.
you 5 times.
Shield number, please.
118.
Look at him.
118.
I love this.
Sergeant
Sergeant Curtis.
You can film all you want.
118.
Can I help you with anything else, sir?
And you.
Nervous Curtis also notices this interaction is being filmed by a third party.
You even got it going.
Okay.
And
228.
228. Yeah, you guys fucked up by following direct orders by your
You guys
sergeant.
gotta follow. You guys
By your
gotta
sergeant. By your sergeant.
Stop. Get out of the street.
I'm not in the street. How's that disorderly conduct?
You're getting loud with me.
You gotta follow protocol.
How's that disorderly conduct?
If you scream it one more time, you're going to put your hands
Brian is already calling his boss.
Arrest him.
Back him up.
Uber ordered by defendants confirmed at 2:16 a.m. Arresting officer of defendant Dominic authored this uninvolved summons at 2:27 a.m. Sergeant Curtis, who we later find out through his own testimony at trial, was off duty at this time to be seen crossing in front of his unmarked vehicle to the north side of the street where the defendants are engaged in civil discussion with uniformed officers. He can be heard demanding the IDs of the defendants. Dominic replies twice, quote, "For what? Freedom of speech," end quote, followed by, quote, "This is fucking America, bro," end quote, and proceeds to lift his shirt and turn to show what is the preamble to the United States Constitution tattooed on his lower back. Sergeant Curtis can be heard again demanding the IDs one more time before rephrasing it as a question, at which Andrew respectfully replies, quote, "Can I have your badge number," end quote, and proceeds to divert his attention to his cell phone. Sergeant Curtis then begins demanding the IDs again. This is when Dominic can be heard quickly and repeatedly asking, quote, "For what?" end quote, 5 times. But after 5 to 6 seconds of inaudible conversation between Sergeant Curtis and Andrew, while Andrew's demeanor still visually appearing calm, Andrew was ordered under arrest by Sergeant Curtis, then placed under arrest by Officer Wells. This case is about a sergeant who reported to a noise complaint while off duty, a sergeant who escalated a situation, a sergeant who overstepped his bounds, a sergeant who did not want his authority questioned, a sergeant who we find out through trial had no authority being there, a sergeant who ultimately arrested Andrew for voicing his opinion, a sergeant who ultimately arrested Dominic for documenting the arrest of his brother Andrew, a sergeant who wanted everyone to know who was in charge, a sergeant who would refrain from admitting wrongdoing, but instead unlawfully arrest an active duty correctional officer and a veteran for disorderly conduct for ego's sake, a sergeant who placed a hand on a rear handcuffed correctional officer and stated, quote, "You're going to have an issue when you lose your job," a sergeant who coerced and conspired the false police reports in attempts to justify the arrests, a sergeant who personally contacted Dominic's department while Dominic was still in police custody to defame his unblemished character, a sergeant who would perjure himself dozens of times while under oath during trial, a sergeant who would contradict Officer Beck's testimony on 9 separate lines of questioning regarding Sergeant Curtis's location, a sergeant who would commit fraud and falsify business records, a sergeant who violated numerous civil rights of Dominic and Andrew, a sergeant who either lied or misspoke about the length of his original overtime detail that ended at 2 a.m., a sergeant who was still working in their full professional capacity while off duty, a sergeant who was operating an unmarked vehicle, utilizing police radio, receiving and making transmission in plain clothes while off duty, which was testified to by Officer Beck, Dominic's arresting officer, a sergeant who made it his goal to do everything in his power to damage Dominic's career in law enforcement, a sergeant who while under oath got carried away and alleged all the following claims regarding Dominic, an active correction officer: that Dominic got into a fighting stance, raised his right fist, lunged, pensed up and made a lunge towards Curtis, ripped his shirt off and put it back on, unbuttoned it and removed it from his body, unbuttoned it, took it, removed it, and it was like a ball in his hand. Officer Beck, Dominic's arresting officer, testified the police affidavit needs to be, quote, tweaked. Also that Dominic never removes his shirt, never ripped his shirt off, never took a fighting stance, never raised his fist, and never lunged. Then proceeded to eventually contact Dominic's department with false allegations for personal gain. This is evident when Sergeant Curtis states, quote, "You're going to have an issue when you lose your job," to Dominic.